Welcome back. We have talked about affordability over this past hour from the perspective of an average voter. But for unhoused individuals, the issue is so much more present. Homelessness has really dominated the headlines in recent months. Over the summer, you remember the visuals that the city cracked down on park encampments. They have proven to be a popular alternative to shelters and respite centers. You may remember things even turned violent at times, police clashing with protesters. Now, this may seem to you like a municipal issue, but there are growing calls for a national housing program. To discuss this further, we're joined by Diana Chan McNally from the Toronto Drop-In Network. Thank you so much for being here. Give me a sense of how the clientele and people who are using your services, how's that changed over the last year?
Yeah, obviously, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there when you're saying that there is a growing presence of encampments, not just across the city of Toronto, but we're seeing it in places like Victoria in British Columbia, Halifax in Nova Scotia, Hamilton just outside of the GTA. And that's to say that what we're seeing really on the ground with our services is that there's a lot more people, one, and also a lot more people who are really reticent to engage with the shelter system. We are seeing more encampments because for people living in them, it is the safest alternative to being in a shelter. And there are lots of reasons why people feel that shelters are unsafe, but obviously one of the biggest concerns during COVID is actually catching the virus.
We talked about this as being largely a municipal issue in terms of police and shelters and all the rest, but you're looking for some guidance from the federal leaders. What do you want to see? What do you want to hear?
Well, when we see encampments, we have to understand that this absolutely is because of a national housing crisis. This isn't something that is happening in isolated areas. It's not just about cities. This is across the country. And again, this is because there is a lack of affordable housing in every province within this country. So when we're talking about housing and we're talking about federal politics, oftentimes you're seeing platforms that are speaking to home ownership, but the reality is that the folks that we're seeing in encampments are there because they've lost rental housing. 39% of people living in Toronto encampments are there because they lost their housing. So clearly this is the primary issue. It's the main reason why people are here. And the platforms need to address this and to make rental housing affordable.
I think for some voters, they know that affordable housing is a key issue, but they see promise after promise and press conference after press conference, and there seems to be a bit of a cynicism about that. What can we really do in terms of affordable housing?
Well, I think, the definition that's being employed by different levels of government about what affordability really means is really misguided. That is to say that affordable doesn't really have a common definition. And when, a federal party says this is affordable housing, is it actually for Canadians? Broadly speaking, no, it isn't. And so when we're talking about affordable rental housing, we're really talking about rent geared to income, which is to say that because of COVID, people have lost their jobs, industries have been decimated. The minimum wage is still $14.25 an hour in Ontario. That's not enough to afford a $1,500 one-bedroom apartment. So we need housing that actually respects the fact that people's incomes really don't actually match up with the market value of housing right now, and we need to prioritize what is actually affordable for them. If it is geared to their income, they can sustain that and they can stay in their housing for a long period of time. So that hasn't been broached yet really by any of the platforms, but it is a huge component to addressing homelessness.
Diana, so thank you so much for your time and for joining us.
Thank you so much.